don't normally ask for people to share my videos. I just assume that, I don't know, if it's good enough, people will share it. If not, they won't, whatever. But this one I think should probably be shared. As you know, the federal government, unconstitutionally on many grounds, is trying to pass the Protect Our Kids Act. As a lot of people know, my oldest son was murdered in 2019. He was 12 days from being 21 years old, at which point he could have applied for a concealed carry and then, quote unquote, legally carried if he would have been approved. Throughout his adult life, what as short as it was, I probably told him, I'm not kidding, I bet I told him 100 times, Nick, I can get you out of jail, bud. I cannot get you out of a casket. Carry your firearm, and if something happens and you wind up going to jail for whatever reason, we'll figure it out. So 12 days before his 21st birthday, he decided not to carry it for whatever reason. Probably because, I'm assuming, because he never really carried any other time to carry. I'm assuming that it was because he was so close to his 21st birthday and he feared getting caught and then, quote unquote, losing his rights, right? So he didn't carry. A lot of people want to blame the gunman, and yeah, he's at fault. The guy that shot him is at fault. He's at fault for killing my son and also killing my son's friend that was with my son that night. He tried to say my son was there to rob him. He heard them over the phone talking about robbing him, yet he still let them in. And again, my son had firearms, yet wasn't carrying that night. So, is it true? It's doubtful. I don't think Nick was there to rob the guy. I think this. Who knows what happened? We'll never know because of the way the system is. We are not privy to that information, or privileged to that information, rather, because it didn't go to trial. What killed my son, though, and what's just as responsible as the guy who pulled the trigger, are the politicians and the cops who enforce these bullshit tyrannical laws. Because we have been led to believe that, they keep our kids safer. No, they don't. They don't keep our kids safer at all. An armed society is a polite society. It's polite because when you carry a firearm, you're actually less likely to be involved in some kind of confrontation. Ask anybody that carries a firearm. Things they would normally if somebody cuts them off, they flip them off or honk their horn or, chase them down and yell at them at the stoplight. That shit don't happen. Not when you're carrying it, don't. Because you understand and you have the responsibility in your hands of other people's lives. And you understand how escalation works. So you ignore a lot of things you otherwise wouldn't. An armed society is a polite society. Gun control kills people. Plain and simple. All these shootings in these schools and shit are happening because of gun control. I mean, it's like, putting signs out in front of a bank saying no locked doors, no locked safes, no security, security free zone. There you go. Die pack free zone. How about that? I mean, that'll keep, people from robbing the bank, right? No, obviously not. And it's not even about keeping our kids safe. That's not what they really intend on doing. It's about oppressing you. It's about control. They're implementing this federal red flag bullshit where you don't even have to own firearms and you can get red flagged. And that's what people are not talking about. They should call it the Ex-Girlfriend's Best Friend Act, because you're going to have a lot of ex-females calling on their ex-old man saying, so-and-so is dangerous and he's got firearms, when there's no proof that he has firearms. Or you're going to have a cop that has that's out for somebody, and you see that shit all the time. Don't say it doesn't happen. Who can initiate it, which is total bullshit. So government can initiate just taking of someone's property after kicking in their door and raiding their home and rummaging through their shit, right? We're in a time where, these cops are going to continue to do as they're told as they do now. And that's what has led us to this place more than anything. We can blame the politicians all day long, but here's the truth. Would the politicians do what they do if they feared the people? No, they wouldn't. Why do they not fear the people? They don't fear the people because they're protected by the police. So People believe that the police they take an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution. They violate that oath by holding the very positions that they hold. I've been challenging people for years. Cite where in our Constitution, where we the people, that includes me, gave government the authority to police us, which would also have to include me having to do that. A free society is only free because it's governed by consent of the people, meaning you have the option to not consent, or you don't have the option to not consent and you are a slave. So these self-proclaimed patriots who are, who are the boot complaining about bootlickers, which is fucking hilarious if you ask me. They are the real problem. Because they will enforce this shit. The federal government doesn't have the authority based on many grounds to create any kind of gun control. That could be any kind of gun control at all. But let's take the Second Amendment out of it, where I restricted government from infringing on my natural rights. Let's take that away from it. They still don't have the authority because they don't have the jurisdiction to do so unless I'm on legally purchased, federally owned lands. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. Go read it. Clear as day. Yet nobody ever talks about it. Why? Because we can't help the way things is. We can't help how the laws are today, right, Zombie Fairy? Can't help how the laws are today, meaning that you will enforce whatever you're told to enforce. You're not pro-freedom. You're not a fucking patriot. You're not even pro-rights. You are the boot. I'm just amazed by how many people don't see it. Well, I see what's really going on, and how many people continue to ignore that they are a part of the problem, continue to ignore what's right in front of their face, because they know everything. I carry these around and I hand them out all the time. I go through probably 1,000 of these every 3-4 months, maybe. And it takes about 3 or 4 months to get them, so if you order them, as soon as you get them started, order them again. That's how I keep up. Matter of fact, I'm about out. Reading this does you no good alone. And I will tell you why. Because if you don't have a basic understanding of what freedom is, you're not going to understand what any of this means. So how do you get an understanding of what freedom is? Well, you go back and you read letters and journal entries from the men who created this document and learn why they created it in the way that they did. You listen to the Federalist Papers and see why they were pro-federal government. You listen to the Anti-Federalists and see why they were anti-federal government. The best way to understand this is to read it, cover to cover, a couple times. Then listen to the Federalist Papers a couple times. You can listen to it on YouTube while you're mowing the grass or whatever. Then listen to the Anti-Federalist Papers a couple times. Then read it again. And once you do that, it will change the meaning in your brain of a lot of things that you read in here. Like, most people don't even know what this is. You ask the average conservative what this is, and they will say, it's what gives us our rights. I hear that all the time. You give me 10 minutes with anybody that claims to be a conservative, I can prove that they support everything they claim to be against. Just did it the day before yesterday with a guy. Most conservatives don't even know what conservative means. They just latch onto something because they believe that suits their belief system, even though they don't even know what they're calling themselves or why they're calling themselves that. But anyway, gun control kills. The Save Our Children Act is going to kill a lot of our children. It's going to kill a lot of us. Abolish all gun control. Abolish the policing forces. You know, I know when I say that, people, here's the problem. People think that any solution, everybody has to be happy. Things can't change. You know, the Revolutionary War, not everybody was happy. The Civil War, not everybody was happy. You know, freedom comes at a specific price. And it's been that price since the beginning of mankind. Blood and lives. And it's unfortunate it has to be that way. But it does, and it's not because of us. It's because of them. I just demand to be left alone. That's it. I don't think that's too much to demand, especially when we live in a country where we are only free because we are governed through consent, meaning we don't have to consent. But gun control killed my son. When you take the bullshit away, um, there's no doubt in my mind that my son would have not only saved himself, but there's a very high likelihood. We know how it happened. We know because of talking to the neighbors. We know from just what we were told by the detectives how the incident took place, who was shot, what happened after that, how my son was shot. My son was shot. When the first kid was shot in the chest, he got shot straight in the heart, and he didn't make it 3 steps, and he was on the ground, dead. Well, at least his heart wasn't beating anymore. My son, when that happened, apparently stood up off the couch and started whooping the shooter's ass. And as he was fighting, he shot my son, and the bullet took a downward trajectory through his left side and clipped his total brain fart, the artery in his pelvis. And he bled out because he feared being caught with a tool that he, would have never harmed anybody with if they didn't try to harm him first. I'm not saying my son was an angel, because he wasn't. Matter of fact, he was just the opposite, man. But he's dead because of government. He's dead because of cops who will do as they're told. Cops who have no idea what our Constitution is or what it states, no idea what freedom is, no idea what rights are. These ignorant people who believe we got to have the rule of law. You know what the rule of law is? It's not government law. Because if you believe it's the rule of law is government's man-made law, then you have to believe that the founders declared independence, fought a war, a bunch of people died, all the struggles they went through, men who founded this country but then later tracked, hunted down and died, 8 of them were killed, just to create the very same thing they wanted to get away from. Nothing about what we see today is how it's supposed to be. Our election process. The productive had the very same say as the unproductive. So when you have a socialist society like ours, and it's a socialist society, it has been for over 100 years, where the unproductive are rewarded for being unproductive, and they have the same vote as the productive, what do they vote for in every election? Well, they vote for the person that's going to give them the most free shit out of your pocket. But vote harder, right? Vote harder. There comes a time when you don't have to worry about how many kids you have, because the government's going to extort everyone around you to pay for your responsibilities. Then you can just pop kids out, 100 at a time if you want. 6, 7 kids, 8 kids by 3 or 4, 5, 6 different dads. And the state will take care of them with the other people's money. But when you're responsible and you only have kids that you can pay for, you only have kids that you can pay for. The responsibility in this country is done with. It's over with. But anyway, the election process, those mothers who have 8 kids by 5 or 6 different dads, who want more food stamps every month, who want more cash assistance every month, who do you think they vote for every month? And on a long enough timeline, when they're popping out 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 kids, and the productive are popping out 1 or 2 because that's all they can afford, what happens? The unproductive outnumber the productive on a long enough timeline. And guess where we're at? It don't take very long, a generation or 2. And here we are. The unproductive outnumber the productive. Well, this election was stolen. Guess what? Every election's been stolen since 1860. Like, you can verify that. You can verify that Lincoln stole the election. How did he steal the election? He wasn't eligible to run. But that's just conspiracy theory, right? You're crazy. But the evidence is right there. I can show it to you. Anyway, I got my wife calling for me. Gun control is the problem. Peace.